Hey everybody, and welcome to this quick Blender bite-sized tutorial. I've been doing a lot of playing with 3D modeling recently, and I figured I'd just share some of the little tips that I've learned in order to make life a bit easier. One of the tips that I've found from a guy called Ian Hubert, if you've never heard of him, he's a great creator. I'd highly suggest you go and check him out. Is you can just basically walk around with your mobile phone, taking photographs of things and then turning them into meshes. I'm going to start off with something really simple in this video, and we're just going to create a sign. So I've got a whole bunch of images I took with my cell phone. I'm just going to drag and drop one into my window, and as you can see, there it is. Now I'm actually in a perspective view at the moment, so the rotation and everything of this is kind of out, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Now that I've dragged this into the scene, what you can see is currently it's treating it as though it's a reference image, but if I just go to Object, Convert to Mesh Plane, and then just hit OK, now what you can see is that's actually created now. It's turned it into 3D geometry. So that is a plane. It has no depth, but it has width and breadth. And now I can start messing around with it. So what first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly select this guy and go to Item. And I can just reset all of these. You could do the keyboard shortcut, but I'm just going to do it manually because it's just as quick, to be quite honest. So now we have that set like so, and then I'm just going to RY90 to get it vertical like that. Now there's several different ways that we could break this up into just to cut out the sign. We could play with the UVs first and then just change the shape of what we've got, but to be completely honest, it doesn't really matter too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and tab into edit mode, and then I'm going to press Control and R, and I'm just going to add some edge loops round about where I want the sign's size to be, like this and like that. And now what you can see is we've actually got our geometry set up. So if I now go to face mode, I can actually just go XF, XF, XF and XF, and then I've cut out the excess ones, but as you can see this looks like garbage because we've got bits clipped off and all sorts. So what we're actually going to do is go into UV editing mode like so, and then we're going to select our image like this, and then I'm going to select my object and the face of it, and you can actually see now that I can actually select and move my vertices around to actually move this into the right place. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm in vertex edit mode, and then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm actually just going to press G, and I'm going to move this into more or less the right place, and then I'll do the same thing with this one. Keep it reasonably tight, and then we can fix, you can kind of see where things are going there like that, and then on the same thing on this one I can see where the two edges are lining up more or less like so. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to inset this face like so, and we're going to get it to roughly about the right size. Now, very important, we need to make sure we select the edges that has created in the corner and not anything else, not the vertices or anything else. Now we're going to go Control B, and then as you can see we can now round off both of the edges pretty well like so, and then all we have to do is select this face in the middle, and we can actually just bevel that in a smidge like that. Now we can play around with the UVs a bit more. If we go into UV editing, we can see that we have all of our shape here selected. So if I were to select this face, you can see that that's actually done a pretty good job there, but we can move these vertices around just to make sure that we really have, and you can see there's a bit of a warp here. So let's just get rid of that edge like that, and then what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add an edge loop in the middle there, and then we can make sure we've got that edge loop, or rather let's just make sure we get these two faces selected, and then we can switch to edge mode and select that edge, and now we can just drag that up into the right place. We can even scale it to remove that excess from the edge, and now if we zoom in you can see we've done a pretty good job of removing that. So you can do this in your own time. You can work your way around and just tidy up these edges to make sure that the edges are where they need to be. if we go back into layout mode, we've now got a 3D object that looks very much like this sign. We could even go as far as to extruding the text, or extruding this bolt in the middle. I mean, that is clearly a 3D object which currently doesn't have any 3 dimensions to it. You could use a knife tool to cut that out if you wanted to. It depends on how in detail and how in depth you want to go. You could also, if we go back into tab edit mode, and I press 2, and I'm going to press Alt and click on the outer edge, and you can see I've got the whole edge loop now, and I can just drag that back, so like so. And then the process of fixing this edge would be the same again. So now we've got a reasonably good looking facsimile of that sign. It's pretty low poly as well. If we wanted to go extra, we could actually add a normal map to it from this paint here. We could actually use the color of that paint to sort of show off any blemishes or whatever. There really is, you know, no ends to the possibilities in this. You could add a more glossy surface to this material around the edge. We could just copy the material and apply that to it, but essentially we're just talking about what you can do with the geometry here. So hopefully you found that useful, interesting. It's a really quick and dirty way of creating 3D assets if you're trying to make a 3D game in Blender. This would, you know, if you stick this on a wall or a lamppost, to be honest, it's going to be quite small to the player even up close, because these signs are only like 6x4. So to be honest, you don't really need to go any more detailed than that. Hope you found that useful, guys. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. But until then, you take damn good care of yourselves, alright? Bye bye.